Hey guys, Tungsten 74 by Personna is a vintage blade I'll be using today. The soap is Stirling Barbershop. It's a 3-ounce container, 4-ounce rather, instead of their usual 5.8. I'll be putting that blade in this vintage Gillette Aristocrat made in the US, and this is the 1936 model. It's a great shaver. And the Whip Dog Boar brush, 24mm, in a kind of standard Shave Forge or AliExpress type handle. Had that soaking for now for a few minutes. All right, I'm going to get my face wet. Today's shave is to duplicate one I did a few days ago with the Stirling Barbershop. As I told you at the time, an online friend of mine named username Needs More Menthol, and this has that M mark, so this is one that I'm going to marathon eventually. He told me some tips about face lather and getting a good face lather, and so I tried it, and he gave me a ballpark recipe that then I was able to tweak if I wanted to, but I went more in the direction of the heavy loading group of folks online. Some people like to do that in terms of face lathering, and I didn't really like that very much because of the reasons that I've stated in those videos. And so he was able to watch the video and get back with me, and he watched me do about 120 swirls, and he said that the lather looked good at about 40 swirls. And so I've used the same brush. I've got the same brush and soap now. So let's just try 40 swirls and see what happens. His point was that when I took the brush after all the swirls and I started working on my face with it, it was too pasty. And then that's too much soap, which means I had to spend a lot of time adding water. The way his technique works is the brush, when it goes onto your face, is pretty much a balanced combination. It's got the amount of water it needs, and then the soap for that amount of water. And sometimes it takes a while to dial in, he said, but that's the goal, is to have as much soap on your brush as you have the amount of water, not equal amounts, but enough to make a lather from those two ingredients. And so therefore you're not having to add a bunch of water in as well. You might have to add a little bit, so it's possible to have maybe a little more soap than the water you need, but that's the general goal. So let's try that today. All right. So let us do about 40 swirls and just see if that looks about right. If we're getting kind of a thin, airy, bubbly sort of early lather that will then be what it's supposed to be, wet, very, very wet, and probably drippy, because that's then what we're going to turn into the lather on my face. So let's try that out. And I believe what he said was, not a dripping brush. So get rid of all the heaviness there. Okay, so go with that. Sometimes a little too much water can get in the way of picking up the soap. All right, so let's do 40 swirls. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that could be just right. Let's do 10 more. Okay, so that's 50 swirls, and see, we've just started to have a little bit of that stuff run over. Definitely wetness on the soap and in the brush. Let's just see what this turns into once it's worked into my face. Does it blow up into the... It's very wet, but you see that's because the soap hasn't become a lather yet. We need to try to keep that water on my face so that it's around as the lather starts to build up. My theory, my thought. can't help but work another area of my face, and unfortunately that does cause some drops and stuff. Go over here to the other side, kind of spread the goodness around. Nice scent as usual from the Stirling Barbershop. Yeah, this is where, okay, it's starting to come together a little bit now. This brush does feel very good. It's a nice soft boar brush. Yeah, it's working pretty well. So he was able to refine, give more precise advice given my experience, and so it looks like that's led me down a pretty good little path. This is a nice hydrated lather. I think it does actually need a tad bit, a little bit more water, and he says he often does have to do that, and sometimes he'll drop a little bit of water in the center of the brush. And I've barely put half a teaspoon in, and the lather's thickening up. Because I was listing some problems that I had with, that experience. Seven different issues. And he was saying that the first 5 of those issues are going to be solved once I didn't load quite as much soap. And so he's not in that same, heavy loading camp that a lot of the guys are in. And let's see, I've added 3/4 of a teaspoon, and you can see the lather's increasing. And that's good, because I'm going to take some of this extra away. Save it for future passes, because there's not a lot left on the brush right now. I'll need that stuff in a minute. Quite a bit. And I know that a 30-second lather on a puck of Stirling is more than what I need for 4 passes when I do my bowl. And so I know that that's a good bit of soap. All right, very good. So we'll keep that for later. It might be a little thicker than I usually like it, but at this point I'm happy. Let's roll with it. And it's also late and I need to get to bed. All right, a vintage blade. Ooh, that feels good. Vintage blade in a vintage razor. This is the younger brother of the 1934, which was the first ever twist to open, mass produced. Gillette made it, of course. The 1934 didn't shave quite as well as the 36. It's got a flatter head trajectory. Now, looks like that's pretty close to where I need to be shooting for in terms of, you know, starting off with the right amount of water in the brush and loading for the right amount of time on the soap, you know. So that's, you know, pretty cool, pretty fast to get that up and going. So very nice, very nice. And he said he doesn't actually rinse between passes, and so that helps him to get more lather out of it instead of rinsing away all the slickness and things like that. So now, hey, and I want to give a shout out to Thor Shaves, I believe is his name of his channel. He did a response video trying to help me out with some of the you know, face lathering procedures that he does. He likes he likes his a little more dry than I do, and he also likes synthetics a lot more than I do. And so if you like synthetics, go check out his channel. He's also shaving around a goatee, it seems, usually. I watched a couple of his videos. He's got a nice demeanor online, and I enjoyed watching his stuff. He was just showing me his technique, and one of the things that he does is to squeeze out the lather from the center of the brush and use that kind of as your third pass, because, you know, with a lot of face lathering, since you're putting the great stuff down the drain, when you get that third pass, sometimes you don't have very much lather still, you know, and so squeezing out from your brush sometimes can really save you and give you what you need to keep going and hit that final third pass. All right, cross grain now. I did feel some stubble still around here from that first pass, so it looks like the second pass needs to pick up the slack. I'm sure it will. That's really kind of rough right there. Maybe that's an area where I left a few too many hairs. I don't know. Take a look at the brush. Make sure that everything's good with the alignment. Yep, seems good. Gentle, light touches. If you're trying to get an area and you feel like you should press harder because it's maybe giving you problems, my advice is resist that temptation. It's better to hit it twice than to hit it hard. All right, rinse. And yeah, I'm doing small rinses. Hopefully keep some of that slickness on my face. So some of the problems I had with that first attempt where I ended up overloading, the ones that he said would go away are the tedium of adding more water. Well, yeah, I definitely didn't have that this time. I did have to add some water, but just not nearly as bad as when I've overloaded the last few days. Happy about that. So that problem's been fixed. When I had to add a bunch of water back to my lather, it did not save me time because of just the time necessary to do that. So that has been alleviated, because I think this is definitely a faster shave than my usual bowl lathering type of shave. I am having to refresh the lather a little bit with some water now because, you know, it's the third pass, and it is something he said I should account for. Don't be surprised if I have to do. Thick concentrate stayed on my face throughout the whole shave. It seemed like maybe it got in the way of a nice close shave. It also took a while to rinse off afterwards, and it was just a telltale sign that I was wasting soap. Well, so far the rinses are telling me that I don't have that same thick film on my face, and so that one has been alleviated. So now the third pass. This blade is working really well in this razor. Still doing great. I forgot how many uses this blade has on it. I don't have this. This one came in one of those dispenser packs. And so it didn't come with a paper envelope. And so I'm not able to do my usual method of putting Sharpie dots on the envelope to keep count. So you'll have to look at the video. The video title usually has a parentheses after the blade name that will tell you the count. Of course, you can go into the video description and see it there as well. And there we go, 3 passes. Nice. And I still have a little bit of lather left over for another pass if I wanted to, probably. Definitely a touch-up if necessary. So let's do a full rinse. I picked up on an area that did not get shaved well at all over here. That is crazy. That is just never a problem. So who knows why that actually happened. Maybe I was didn't have the angle right. Maybe I was moving too fast. Let's hit it again. Yeah, see, I can hear it. Shouldn't be that way after 3 passes. Then I can put on a little bit more there. Now it's starting to sound a little better. Look a little better. Yeah, that's it. Very interesting. That does not happen often at all. Rinse. So there we go. We're in good shape now. Rinse and toweled off. The other issues that he said would be cleared up with a slight improvement in my method were just that it was such a chore to do all the face work. Well, that was because I was having to add more water because I had too much soap on my face. And so that was alleviated. I didn't have to do, I did kind of a normal amount of face work with the brush, so that's good. And I never got to the hydration level that I wanted because it took so much time to add water. Same thing. So many problems that arose because I just had too much soap on my face. And this one I was able to get pretty close to what I wanted, and I don't feel like it would have been a problem to keep on going a little further to hydrate it more. And so, you know, I looked at it at 40 swirls and I thought, you know, let's go to 50. Looks like I didn't need to do that. And I might have even been in better shape with 40 swirls. So, you know, it was wet and soupy going on my face, you know, but that's how it's supposed to look right before it becomes a lather. Okay, so there we go. Now the only other 2 left, the 2 problems that I had with that face lather were that my second and third passes just were not very good at all. I had to almost reconstitute them, and they were still, but as you could see with this time, for the second one, I had plenty of lather stored up because I had, you know, put a lot of lather on the brush to save it up for the second pass, and then the third pass had enough lather to do the job. So good. And I still had enough to hit my big old cheek one more time too, because I had a problem with the stubble there. My technique most likely was the problem. And so that one basically was remedied. And then a dry feeling afterwards. Now I believe that with a 40-second type load, see how much lather is on my brush compared to the soap that I got on my brush with 120 swirls, which is 3 times 40. And so I believe that I've had less concentrate on my face during the course of this shave. I'm going to guess that that problem is going to be eliminated too, because that dryness that the soap imparts is going to be in 1/3 the amount as well. And so but I won't have any dryness problems. And before, I had even used a balm to try to combat the dryness, but it was ineffectual because of the massive amounts of soap that 120 swirls put on my face. So this was very successful. This is a face lather that I'm I'm happy with. It's quick enough. It's quick enough in terms of the amount of work I have to do on my face. It's not all that much. So I'm really happy. Thank you very much. Needs more menthol for your advice. He's been doing it a long time, and it looks like he has narrowed down on a very nice method for face lathering that doesn't put too much soap on your face, and it doesn't make you work too hard adding the water and getting a good mix on your face. So I'm a happy camper. I also had minimal spillage. There was a little bit of the dripping and stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot. And so that is a good one for me. Very cool. Very cool. And that would end up to be a quick shave. If I needed to do that, less commentary, that kind of thing would make it a very quick shave and an enjoyable one. The other one where it was a whole lot of soap just wasn't fun for me. And this one I get to experience the feel of the brush, the scent of the soap, feel of the lather on my face, a good hydrated lather instead of knowing that I've got this thickness on my face that I'm gonna have to get off later. So I'm a happy camper. How much water did I end up using? Of course, we don't know how much was in the wet Boar before I started, but I added through the course of the shave about 1 1/3 teaspoons. So it didn't take too much more to tweak it. Very nice. Happy with that. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope there has been something in here that's been good for you. I know for me, I sure learned some good stuff today, and we'll do something else tomorrow. Maybe I'll repeat the same shave and do a 40-second load instead. And I'm delighted to see that as a more minimal load. That's a load also that is more akin to what I do with my bowl lathers. So I'm happy with that. I think that's not going to waste the soap that 120 swirl. All these, it's okay. See, Thor, Chris from Another Cut Above, Thor, they and a lot of the guys that were giving me advice online, they just like to lather a lot. They like to lather a minute, sometimes of loading, sometimes even more. Is what they like to do. Thor himself, he liked to mix up, and that early stuff that's a little bit more bubbly, he just throws down the drain. And so he doesn't even use that part. So he likes to use up a lot of soap during his process. And soap's pretty cheap. It's his money. He can do that if he wants, right? But I don't like to use up quite that much. And so I'm glad that about 40 swirls roughly is a good spot for me to have lather to do the job. All right. And Chris is the same way. He likes to load for a long time from Another Cut Above. I like a lot of his videos. I like a lot of the stuff he reviews. And he also likes his lathers a little bit on the dry side, relative to me at least. Thor, like the example one he did, was a little wetter than Chris's example. And so there's some guys out there that are doing face lathers that you can check out as well. Matter of fact, most of the online shavers, I'm pretty much like the face lathering. I'm pretty sure like the face lathering a little bit better than the bowl. I definitely think I'll be sticking with the bowl, but now I feel like I have a nice, solid procedure, good process for face lathering, where it eliminates all the problems that I have with face lathering, at least almost all of them. And so I'm a happy camper. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You take care and stay safe. And I think getting a lot of sleep is one of the biggest things to boost your immune system with this COVID thing going around. We'll get through this. It's a temporary thing. So let's all just stick together, be kind to each other. If we can all do that. Good night.